They're not saying Trump has immunity for whatever he did. They're saying, we don't know. You're going to have to send it back to the court, which is they have decided, 6 of them found a way to protect Trump, give him functional immunity. Again, layman's view of this. And basically no immunity ever for any sane, normal person who would ever hold the office again.
Hey, y'all. I just wanted to start by acknowledging we're going through some choppy waters right now. I'm thanking everybody for the notes, positive and negative. I really appreciate y'all on this platform. But before today's show, I wanted to share a little update about what to expect in this space the next few weeks. On Thursday and Friday, 4th of July, I have some off-the-news interviews about race and culture and the economy with 2 amazingly smart people I hope you'll enjoy. We'll also have a check-in with Ben Wittes tomorrow about the Trump immunity ruling that's coming down right now as I'm talking. Other than that, between now and the RNC convention on July 15th, I'm going to be spending the preponderance of time on the urgent crisis in our democracy that is unfolding following last week's debate. And I want to be clear, this is a crisis, maybe the biggest of my lifetime. Having our democracy's bulwark, Joe Biden, the one man standing between us and Donald Trump's autocracy, demonstrate a complete inability to offer a coherent argument amidst a campaign that he's already losing, is a crisis. Having 3 in 4 Americans think that he doesn't have the cognitive ability to be president is a crisis. There are questions about whether he can go forward, whether he can be replaced. There are questions about how he'd be able to govern at the age of 86 if he won. There are the dire consequences if he or a replacement candidate loses. This is the political story of our time. I've heard from some folks that aren't interested in that they think everything's fine. They're riding with Biden, and we should just focus on how Trump is bad. Well, yeah, Trump is bad. He should drop out. But I'm sorry, the other part of the equation, putting our head in the sand, that's not happening here. This is a bullshit-free zone. So if you want an honest talk about the path forward, cool. If you don't, no shame in taking a little summer vacation. I'll see you back here July 15th for the Republican convention. One more thing. I heard a wise word of caution from maybe our most loyal and beloved listener. She said that while there's value, it's going to be tough for me and Tom today. Well, there's value shouting into the ether about how right we are in a world gone mad. There's more value in discussing the practical ways forward. So I'm going to try my best to do that too. Thanks for being along for the ride. Up next, the great Tom Nichols. Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. We got Tom Nichols here, as I mentioned, Professor Emeritus at the Naval War College, staff writer at The Atlantic, author of the Atlantic Daily Newsletter. His books include The Death of Expertise, which now is an updated and expanded edition. What's happening, brother? Thanks for coming back.
Hey, Tim, good to be with you. Wish it were a different day, different year, different place, but great to be hanging with you.
Yeah, same. Okay. So I gave a long intro about what's coming, about the Joe Biden discussion, but I've got 2 other topics I want to hit on before we get to that, if that's all right with you. One of them is just right in your wheelhouse for the death of expertise. And the other one is just, I feel like we've earned this. Like, despite the madness around us and the badness, there is something happening today that we can enjoy. Steve Bannon is going to jail.
Yes.
Steve Bannon is set to report to federal prison, not too far from you. Maybe you could go visit him. Danbury, Connecticut.
It's actually pretty much a hike. That's Danbury's out by the New York. I'm here by the ocean, and Danbury's out by the New York border. Not far enough for my taste, but you know. I hope he enjoys his time in the rolling hills of Connecticut.
How do you feel about the Bannon jailing? I got to tell you, I have pure Schadenfreude, which I like. But while I'm giving unpopular takes, I might as well start with this one. Like, the crimes he was pardoned for were maybe jailable. I feel a little bit mixed about this. Like, should we really be putting? You don't? Okay, good.
No, I mean, he and Navarro, you're subpoenaed to appear in front of Congress. You can sit in front of Congress and say, I choose not to answer, go fly a kite, whatever it is. But Bannon and Navarro were trying to make the point that Congress isn't real and doesn't have that power, and it can't actually do any of that stuff. And they were counting on, Trump somehow to get him out of that jam. And they, I'm sorry if I worked in Congress. Congress subpoenas you. There are plenty of other options besides just flipping the bird and saying Congress isn't the boss of me. And courts all the way up to the Supreme Court affirmed that you just can't do that. And, I know there are people out there saying, 4 months, That's nothing. Let me tell you something. 2 weeks in a federal prison would flip me out. I mean,
my first boss in politics was a judge that was in the Marines, and he was explaining how he decided to go into the Marines, and he said that, I figured that boot camp wouldn't be that long. And he's like, you don't realize how long a few weeks is until you live them 1 second at a time.
Yes.
That's kind of how jail experience is, I would imagine.
4 months in federal prison is, that's no joke. And I think, if either the rule of law means something and our institutions, look, I can understand that people who feel, let's try and be nonpartisan, not bipartisan, but nonpartisan. I understand that there are people who could feel like, this is just a circus, and Congress is just dragging me in here to yell at me. Okay, but if it's a lawful subpoena and your lawyer has advised you, yes, Congress can actually do this, then you sit there and you fold your hands and you say, whatever, Congressman. Yes, Congressman. No, Congressman. I choose not to answer, Congressman. Right. You get it over with, and you go about your life. They wanted this show. This is the thing, I think, to understand. This is why I don't have this same, why it's all schadenfreude and no regret the way you have. They chose this. They wanted to make this a circus. They wanted to plant a flag and say, look at me, I'm different. Well, okay, a bunch of courts have now said, yeah, citizens of the United States, this is the law. You did this. You brought it on yourselves. Enjoy eating off of trays for 4 months.
You're winning me over a little bit. It's just my bleeding heart about. I feel like we overjail a little bit, but you're winning me over. And on top of that, I'll even add.
We overjail the wrong people, is what we do.
Yeah, that's true. And I just would add, not only did they want this, he kind of even wanted the jail thing. Like if over on MAGA social media, like he right now is being valorized, right? All great men went to jail once. Mm-hmm. And so like there's an element of this that they wanted. So, okay, well, you can get what you asked for. Fuck around and find out,
I think both he and Navarro wanted the jail sentence and wanted it to be averted just as the prison door swung open.
Right.
But I think about 3 days from now, probably the same thing with Navarro, that they're sitting there going, maybe, all those people that are valorizing them are sleeping in their own beds tonight.
Concur. Okay, I've changed my mind. I want to save the death of expertise question for dessert, because we're going to need that. The Supreme Court ruling. Obviously, as I mentioned, we're going to have a deeper dive in this with Ben Wittes tomorrow with some time. But saying as it's going to be the big news of the day, and obviously acknowledging that you haven't had a chance to read it. Like, any big picture thoughts about just how we got here with this delayed immunity ruling?
I am not a lawyer and a constitutional expert. I did predict they would not. Everybody was, it's got to be 9-0, and they're just dragging their feet and they're just holding on to it. But they're going to do the right thing. No, I didn't expect that at all. I expected exactly this: some tripartite decision that then allows Trump to go back to court and basically never be charged. Because I already read part of, I want to say it's Sotomayor's dissent.
The Sotomayor dissent. Why don't I just read it really quick and then you can weigh in, because I was just looking at that. In Sotomayor's dissent, it was a 6-3 ruling, which you alluded to on straight.
Well, we should tell people he has full immunity for
official acts.
For official acts, right? But that he has no immunity for personal acts, which is, a president can do anything, anytime, blah, blah, blah. Trump's position. But the nub of it is now we have to go back to court and say, well, what's an official act? Which, that's just, okay, so fine. He can't. Presidents already had immunity for things that presidents do. If he signs legislation, right, you can't then sue him for being criminal.
Goes back to the droning question, right? Like the Obama drone situation, like that. That's an official act. Yeah. So here's Sotomayor's dissent. This shields presidents from criminal and treasonous acts and makes a mockery of the principle foundational to our Constitution and system of government, that no man is above the law. She said, with fear for our democracy, I dissent. She goes on and lists the criminal acts that presidents can now take with immunity, and says that in some ways the president's now a king above the law. Let's see. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon is one of these examples. Immune.
Mm-hmm.
Organizes a military coup to hold on to power. Immune. A pretty alarming dissent. And she goes on, even if these nightmare scenarios never play out, and I pray they never do, the damage has been done. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, especially if he's reelected.
These drama queens saving this thing for the last day. This is something that has bugged me for a long time. Like it's like the Supreme Court we're non-political, we're nonpartisan, we're these 9 people in robes above the law. And for fucking 20 years now, maybe this goes back further, but just in my lifetime of paying attention to this, it's always like, we're going to save the most dramatic, biggest decision for the last day.
We don't want all this. We don't want all this unseemly political attention. Pay attention to us now. But I also wonder too if they held on to it, saying, if it's the first thing they really, first of all, they should never have taken the case. I'm just going to say DC District Court, speaking as a layman, immunity, Trump's whole argument was ridiculous. Supremes probably should have never touched it. We affirm the lower court, bye-bye. But if they were going to take it, if they released it on the first day, that's all anybody would have talked about. And maybe that was, maybe they thought they were doing were they doing a public service by not sucking all the oxygen out of the term at the end? I don't know. Tim, I'm working on, the most, work with me here, man. I'm trying to give
trying to give some person somewhere the benefit of the doubt. It's tough these days.
I mean, what are you going to say next? That they would leak controversial decisions just to see what happens? I mean, come on, man.
I guess I'm just saying I'm not a Scooby-Doo investigator on that, but I do think with all we learned from Martha Annalito, I think that I've got a suspect. Let me just say I've got a suspect for the leak.
I am not a lawyer or a detective, Shaggy. But yes, I have a particular suspect in mind myself. And the reason I still maintain that theory is, no one's really put a lot of effort into figuring this out. It's like there's only 9 of us and we're just never going to know, who can tell?
Could it have been?
Who could it have been?
Well, we will have a much more on this with Ben Wittes tomorrow. But once again, the final 3 categories was full immunity for core constitutional functions, presumed immunity for official acts. Oh boy, and no immunity for non-official acts. So much more here, and really I guess one more point on this. The main takeaway is this delay, and now creating something that's going to have to go back to the circuit courts, and this is what we'll be talking about with Ben. But boy, it gets harder and harder to think that Trump will be on trial this year.
Yeah, I think that they found a way to do it, and to say, here, we're just going to glitch this up so that functionally, they're not saying Trump has immunity for whatever he did. They're saying, we don't know. You're going to have to send it back to the court, which is, they have decided, 6 of them found a way to protect Trump, give him functional immunity. Again, layman's view of this, and basically no immunity ever for any sane, normal person who would ever hold the office again.
Feeling overwhelmed by the state of politics? Finding it hard to get motivated? You might be suffering from electile dysfunction, but Pod Save America has got the cure. Talk to your doctor about tuning into Pod Save America every Tuesday, Wednesday now, and Friday for a real talk conversation about the latest, biggest election of our lives, and 0 old guys yelling at you about the kids these days. Where else can you get that guarantee? Nowhere. Listen and subscribe to Pod Save America on your favorite podcast platform or watch on YouTube. Pod Save America is not approved by the FDA.
All right. Are you ready to talk about Joe Biden?
Will you shut up, man? Yes. That's what we've both been getting all for 2 days, all weekend. Shut up.
My article this morning, which and you can take this. I will do this Socratic. We'll just sort of bounce things off each other and see how we get, because there's a lot to go through. But my article this morning starts with a baseline, which is stop the gaslighting. And the Dems out saying things like, oh, Reagan and Obama had a bad debate. No, this was nothing like that. It was one bad night. No, it was not one bad night. He had a cold, maybe, but the colds don't make you incapable of making arguments. It was Gish galloping. Like, that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Joe Biden. Did you see how great he was at Raleigh the next day? I guess, but he's on teleprompter. Like, only what, so there's this whole list of all these things about how you should just be quiet and get in line. And I don't think that's the path to success. I think people are, who are not on politics Twitter are seeing reality, and we should think about what they're seeing. But anyway, what are your thoughts?
Well, as I wrote on Friday, I said, look, I don't want to have these endless, because I think one of the things that's most frustrating about politics, Twitter and Blue Sky and all of it is, oh, he's been a good president. I like him. He's better than Trump. Yes. Thank you. That's
Great.
All irrelevant to the question right now. My question was, can he win an election now? Is he electable? And I'm making the same argument about Biden that I made for him in 2020, when people from left-wing Twitter were jumping all over me. Biden can't win. Biden is the weakest candidate. I said, no, he is clearly the most electable candidate. And I'm willing to believe that he is electable and can beat Trump. But my confidence in that has been shaken. I think the campaign needs, and this is where I dovetail now with the kind of arguments you're making. The campaign needs to show that, instead of just saying, don't believe your lying eyes. So I haven't actually called on Biden to step down. I've said, if we're going to have and I firmly am in the camp of people saying, look, we need to have an argument about this. We need to air this, and we need to do it now and not in October.
It's a great point. And we should get to because that goes to it was not one bad night side of the gaslighting. Like, let's just stop with that. Okay, stop.
Yeah,
all right. If you want to make the case that Joe Biden is still the best bet, because the other alternatives are worse, and chaos, and I want to go through all of those, but we have to dispense with it was one bad night. It was not. Right. Okay, the videos,
and stop with the Reagan stuff. Yeah. Reagan was 18 points ahead.
And Reagan looked great. I went and rewatched 1984, the Reagan debate, and I have the video in my article today, which we'll put in the show notes if folks want to do this for themselves. Reagan was halting at times. You could tell that he was either nervous or maybe he was starting to decline a little bit, and he wasn't at the peak of his powers. It doesn't look like the great Reagan that we see sometimes, but he also was coherent. He pulled an Abraham, in the one clip I put, he pulls this Abraham Lincoln quote out of the air, to respond to something that Montel had said. He makes very nuanced arguments. It was not at all comparable in style and substance or in context. As you mentioned, he was up in the race, to what's happening in this race.
He was 18 points ahead, and he loses 40% of that. He loses, right. I was told there'd be no math, but whatever percentage, 7 points. He loses 7 points, in one shot. And yes, he can get it back. The problem for the campaign is, and I said this in my piece, I accept this is about as good as Joe Biden's going to get.
Right.
Yes, he will be great in front of teleprompter. So was Reagan. This is where I'm going to invoke the privilege of age and say, I was in my 20s, when Reagan was president. And even those of us who loved him as president, we were young, conservative Reaganites. Reagan would come out, do a press conference, they'd ask him something, and all of us together would join him in that little verbal stumble he'd do of going, right?
He'll always gathering his thoughts. It's like the lawnmower warming up.
And the head would kind of, I'd be in a room full of young Republican guys, and we made fun of him. Mr. President, what do you think about this? And you'd hear the whole room go, and because that's just okay. That's how he was. But we thought, still better than the alternatives. Still going to vote for him. And I think part of it was the campaign so hermetically sealed Biden from any of these moments of looking old in the way the Reagan campaign didn't, that it was a shock to go from, the public Joe to the debate Joe. And they didn't, and this is the point I want to make, and then I'll shut up. They didn't need to do that. It wasn't necessary. I mean, Biden should have come out all for the past 2 years saying, wow, am I tired? Or, geez, I just flew in from the NATO summit and, I need my nappy time. I mean, there are ways to make self-deprecating jokes about being old. And God knows, I'm in my 60s now. I make a few of them myself. But they just, I think this goes back to being a senator, not a president. Yeah. Senators don't really have advisors. They have staff. And they do what they want. And you just don't contradict. And even the best senators, and I worked for one of the best, they nonetheless, they develop a kind of mindset about this. And I think he's just not being well served by that. And so none of this was necessary. America's full of grownups, at least some, who could handle that Joe Biden is getting old, that he doesn't sound like himself. But the time to unveil that was not the debate, and that it was just political malpractice down the line.
Speaking of political malpractice, that's what I want to get to next, because this is the thing that pisses me off the most, because I'm more towards the side of Joe Biden needs to get out of this race than you, and we can talk about that a little bit. But let's just say that's not going to happen, okay? Because if he's going to stay, the thing I'm the most adamant and most outraged about right now is if he's going to stay, they need to acknowledge how catastrophic that debate was, how bad the situation they're in is, and start acting differently and change the campaign trajectory. Instead, here's Axios. Based on conversations with top officials and advisors, here's Biden's survival strategy. 1, dismiss bedwetting, attack the pundits who are criticizing him. 2, squeeze polls for juice, look for any evidence that he didn't go down that much. 3, warn of chaos. That's a not so subtle attack on Kamala Harris. 4, limit dissent. 5, keep elected leaders close. 6, tell the donor class to chill out. 7, prove vitality. Interesting, that's number 7. 8, ignore the media. That shit is fucking insulting. Okay, that is insulting to all of us. Anybody that wants Joe Biden to win, okay, anybody that loves this country and hates Donald Trump and wants Joe Biden to win, what Joe Biden needs to do is not attack what did they say over the weekend?
Shoot the messenger.
Yeah, attacking the self-important podcasters. It's not attack the media. It's not attack James Carville. All right, like we're not the problem. Like the thing that Joe Biden needs to do is demonstrate to all the people that are legitimately worried that he is up for this. Okay, they need to get him out there and attack Donald Trump. Instead, he was doing a weekend photo shoot with Annie Leibovitz on Sunday. Like, where is it? What is happening right now?
2 things. One is when you say that he's up for this, when I say up for this, I mean the campaign that defeats Donald Trump. Because I still think I have no look. Everybody's worrying about the 3 a.m. phone call. Hey, pretty much anybody over 45 has got to worry about a 3 a.m. phone call.
I mean, you're not okay. I want to get back to the campaign, but let's just do this. You're not at all worried about Joe Biden being president in 2028. I think it's a little bit presumptuous for pro-democracy people to be like, it's fine. It'll be fine. We can just have shadow President Jill Biden and Ron Klain in 2028.
No, I definitely have worries about it. An 86-year-old president. Yeah. I'm not happy about it. But if it gets down to election day and my choice is between an old guy who's going to need a team of people around him, during a crisis that I will trust, or someone who is, mentally unstable and an autocrat
with lunatics around him, of course,
with lunatics around him. Exactly. Okay, will I take doddering old Joe Biden with Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, or will I take, crazy pants Trump with Secretary of Defense Kash Patel? Yeah. Not even as I said in my article, not even going to think twice about it. I definitely have concerns about his health and his acuity, as I would with any older man in the presidency, especially now after the debate where, he looks like an older man. So
back to the campaign side of it, though.
Yeah. So back to so, so stipulated that I have those concerns, but not enough to sway me off of, thinking that he's the better choice. So now I want to go back to where I really agree with you, which is campaign's approach to this, which is all is well. These are not the droids you're looking for. Is not only insulting, it's panicky and it's stupid. It's just, I mean, this is just such a bad staff environment. And again, I think it's the extension of a Senate staff, not a president's staff. During the prep, this is the thing I'm wondering during the campaign prep. Let's just kind of focus in on that for a moment. I had this image in my head of like a half a dozen people, at least half of them, 30-ish or 40-ish going, now, Mr. President, remember, you really got to hit this thing about Pell Grants because that's what the students are tuning in for, And at that point, the chief of staff or the oldest guy in the room or the guys in charge of this should have said, you, and you, get out. Right. And then close the door and say, Joe, you've debated this guy twice. You know what he is. Take a rest. Spend a day with Jill. Rest up. Read the Sunday papers. Do whatever it is you do, and then kick his ass. Yeah. And they didn't do that, and that is just malpractice. Now, maybe that's the president's fault. Maybe he said, "Hey, I need to go out there and really know those Celsius temperature targets for climate." But I doubt that. I mean, you remember that, Tim, right? Trump is going out about, I am Jesus Christ. I will, destroy. I shall smite the earth, and Biden's standing there going, we're within 1.2 Celsius of, and I'm going, what the fuck
are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
They asked for this, by the way.
Well, and this is the thing. The other thing I was going to say, the campaign is putting all this out and saying, it's got to be like this, and we got to jump. Oh, by the way, in going after the media, I think Jonathan Martin had a great point over the weekend where he said, "Great, so all of the Democratic elected Pauls are whispering to the media so that they can be the bullet catchers for Biden's anger because the media is not making this up."
This is the thing that drives me the most crazy. Okay, we're pausing on this for 1 second because I have to rant about this. This whole fucking thing that it's like, oh, it's only the pundits and the bedwetting class that are concerned about this. The real people out in America and the elected officials who love Joe Biden are standing by him. Bullshit. Bullshit. That's I can tell. I'm damn near close to starting to leak my texts from fucking Democratic politicians, by the way, because Democratic politicians sound exactly like I do, and like the Pod Save America guys do, and like you do. Like they sound exactly. And Mehdi Hasan, no matter where you are in the political spectrum, Bill Kristol to Mehdi Hasan, to James Carville, these guys, the politicians sound exactly like all of them. It's just we don't have to talk to voters. We don't have future careers to worry about, so we can just say the truth. Okay. And by the way, the people in my life who are the least political also sound exactly like us, right?
I will just say the only person I talked to when I wrote my piece on Friday was my wife. That was it.
And what was her take? What was her take? Did she think he sounded great? It was just one bad
night. She wouldn't watch it. And the next morning she got up, she turned on, what did she turn on? She turned on Morning Joe, I think. And she said, I could tell from the look on everybody's faces, I knew what happened without even seeing a bit of it. And then, she watched some clips.
I had one of these grifting influencers reply to me with a video, and it's like politics girl. And she was like, I couldn't, we have to get in line because our rights are at threat and this democracy is in threat. And I couldn't even watch the debate. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, the fact that you couldn't watch the debate, it tells you everything you need to know. Okay.
That is so revealing. Yeah. Just for the record, my wife is always my best editor. Right. And so I'm just saying, I didn't have a whole phone full of, freaked out Democrats. But the idea that the only people who had any concerns about this were, as somebody, one of my favorites over the weekend, somebody said, the only people who care about this are pundit scum like you, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. It's like, yeah. Because, totally normal people wouldn't, who've, and I think now let me drag somebody else in. I think it was David French who said a lot of normal people had a real concern about that because we have elderly parents.
Yeah, right.
We know what they look like. My father lived to be 94. My father at 94 could have probably done a better job than Biden did with that debate. And I would certainly have trusted my dad to be president more than Joe Biden. But you don't get anywhere by simply saying, everybody shut up, everybody, get in line, everybody just blame this on Mucinex and the CNN makeup room. That's another one. I'm like, come on, man. You guys sound like, you really do sound like Trumpers when you do that. Just say,
Fake
look,
news
our guy
media.
is
Don't listen to the fake news media. Don't listen to the polls. Don't listen to the focus groups. Don't listen to your friends.
You got to start doing the hands. Yeah. Don't listen to the polls. It was the lighting. It was the makeup. It was the, and I tried to tell people, look, you sound, just say it. Our guy is a good guy, right? If you're a Democrat, you're trying to make this case. Our guy's a good guy. He's had a great first term. He's old. He loses a step. He's had some bad days, but he's still the better choice than and yeah, it was, we get it. You're all scared. It's miserable. Instead, they do the conference call. I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, Tim, but they tried to do a DNC conference call and they took no questions and turned off the chat function.
Great. Yeah.
Now that, I'm sorry, and it's like, hi, I'm here to reassure you. Sit quietly. It's like the I'm going to date myself now, but it's like the Outer Limits control voice. Do not adjust your set. We will control the vertical. We will control the horizontal. It's like, just sit quietly for the next 60 seconds. You can't do that. I mean, people are calling up saying, what the hell just happened? And your answer is all is well. And also, I will be taking no questions.
I will be taking no questions. And I also will be doing nothing to demonstrate that things are better. I'm not like the malpractice of this, just as a comms person, is you have this absolute crisis and then he doesn't go out. He hasn't done any interviews. He hasn't demonstrated. He hasn't done anything to even try to assuage any concerns. And maybe that's because he can't, or maybe it's because they have hubristic, petulant, anti-media bunker mentality. And both of those are terrible. So anyway, I want to look back one more time because
there's one.
Please go really quick.
Yeah, I had one just to wrap up one thing about it. The people that are accusing you, especially, I know what you've been going through for the past couple of years, a couple of days. So that just
I'm a big boy.
Sucks. And
I appreciate it.
I know, but it doesn't. I don't have to like it either. But maybe part of the argument for having this argument is, this is how candidates get better. This is how campaigns get better. You take your lumps, you fire some people, you have a come to Jesus meeting, and you say, okay, we can't go on this way. Because I think one thing that's clear is, hey, if Joe Biden comes out tomorrow and says, look, this discussion's over. I'm never leaving the race. I'm in this until I keel over, whether that's tomorrow or 10 years from now. Great. Then let's go back to the argument about who the better candidate is, which I think is a no-brainer. But to simply say we're going to march on as if nothing happened, that's just not an option.
Lunacy. All right. I want to look one more question about going back, because you had a good point on social media over the weekend I want to cover, and then I want to look at the forward-looking options. You brought up an important point about how the only reason we had this debate in June was because of these strategists, right? The Biden strategists came up with a plan, and they were concerned. Why were they concerned? Because they're losing. And they were like, okay, our theory of the case is if we have an early debate, that's going to focus the minds of the voters. They will see that Joe Biden's up for it, and they will be reminded that Donald Trump is a crazy lunatic. That was their strategy. And it just blew up in the most catastrophic way possible. So then to tell us that, the debate doesn't matter, or, we should just ignore it. It's like, no, it was you guys that told us we need to have this early debate to address Joe Biden's problems. And your plan failed. And so now you got to tell us what's the new plan, not just like, it's cool, don't worry about it.
When people say, it's just one night and debates don't matter, and let's just move on. Well, I'm sorry. Focusing on the debate as a crucial inflection point was your idea.
Right.
Okay, I'm not doing something, as media got whatever we are, media hacks or whatever we're, supposed to be. You told us to focus on this debate as the turning point. That's why you put it in June. You thought that this was going to be, that this was D-Day, that this was, Trump was going to finally self-destruct, Biden was going to look strong, and really everything that happens over the summer wasn't going to matter anymore. And so you can't just turn around now and say, again, pay no attention. These are not the droids. It wasn't one night. It was the implosion of a strategy. And again, who thought this was a good idea? Like this is the come to Jesus moment in a campaign. And I would say this about any campaign. I mean, Trump's campaign, but by the way, I'm going to stop and rant for a minute. Can we just stop with this shit about why are people calling on Trump to step down? Okay.
Step down.
Step down.
Done. Called for
Donald
it.
Donald Trump should, as my opinion, Donald Trump should not be running for president. He should be in prison.
We should get out of school.
Step down.
Tom Nichols, Professor Emeritus, Naval War College. Tim Miller, Bulwark Podcast host, officially call for Donald Trump to step out of the race. Are you happy?
Yes. But that doesn't work. One of the funniest guys I know on Twitter, a guy who follows me on Twitter, said, after Catherine Pat, this is going to be a military analogy. After Catherine Pat, sure, you called for our guy to step down, but you didn't call for Rommel to step down. He's not going to do it. Okay. He's not his voters. Right. You have to beat his voters. Just take the Trump campaign as like the weather. Or as a rock formation that, it can, and maybe that's a good thing because while it's not going to get any smaller, it probably can't get any bigger. You can beat him. My concern is not people going from, Biden to Trump. It's people going through all the stuff you just talked about and saying, you know what? Everybody sucks. Politics sucks. Biden sucks. Trump sucks. I'm going to stay home. And 100,000 people in 4 states decide to do that, and it's all over. That's the other thing I think that a lot of the people yelling at us don't understand. You're not playing for millions of votes. If I hear one more time, because it all started to come out again, well, the popular vote and millions of people, I don't care about any of that stuff. Can the Democratic candidate sew up 271 electoral votes? Yes or no? If you can, great. If you can't, or if you think you can't, or it's starting to look like you can't, then you need to do something. And by the way, what was up with the campaign sending around that chart? Did you see it?
Yeah.
Of
attacking the other Democratic candidates, potential candidates.
Who poll within 2 points of Biden against Trump.
Yeah, they all pulled the same. They put out a chart thinking it was like, oh, see how much better Joe Biden is, but it was all within margin of error. It's like, why are you attacking Kamala Harris and Gretchen Whitmer right now? Like, why? You should be attacking Trump. You shouldn't be attacking the fucking podcasters and Kamala Harris.
But also, it's not a good attack.
Right.
It wasn't a good argument. It's like, look at all these other people who would do just as well against Trump as Joe Biden. Wait, what?
Right, yeah.
That's not. I don't think that's the argument. That's the argument you don't want to make.
Okay.
And again, this is where I worry not just about Joe Biden and the campaign, but oh my God, this staff malpractice from top to bottom makes me worry. Can this staff handle a campaign? Because so far their instincts are just terrible.
Yeah.
I think they've been coasting too long on Donald Trump is nuts, and that's a fine point to make.
We talked about that quite a bit around here.
I talk about it every day, but that somehow saying that and therefore we don't have to give an effective press briefing. It's not a real campaign that way. It's not a real alternative to a campaign.
All right. So a young data analyst guy I really like Shia Jain. He hasn't gotten fully brain damaged like Nate Silver sometimes. And he's very he's a straight shooter. And he has a post at Split Ticket. We'll put it in the show notes. I like the guys over at Split Ticket. And it's the case for keeping with Joe Biden and the case for moving to Kamala Harris. And it's just a straight data-based argument. And on the case for Joe Biden, he writes this, which is, I think, kind of compelling, but it goes to your concern about people staying home. He looked at the CBS poll over the weekend that showed that only 27% think that Joe Biden is cognitively capable of being president. Pretty concerning number. But he points out that in February, it was only 35%. So, I mean, like the vote. So his point, and that the drop from 35 to 27 is mostly among Democrats, probably people that are going to hold their nose and vote for him anyway, because the orange man is bad. So the point that he makes is that this is kind of baked in already, and Biden's age, and people have accepted that this is their shitty choice. And so the unknown of what would happen if he dropped is maybe a risk not worth taking. He goes on, there's more to it than that. I don't know. It's not. I'm not that compelled by it, but it's a fair point. What do you think about the case for Biden staying?
Well, the thing I said on Friday was, okay, because when I was trying to kind of talk this through with some of my colleagues, and I was like, okay, what am I really talking about here? Maybe do we walk through how it actually happens? Because I don't, I've been wrestling with that. And I got to that point in the piece and I said, this is where I always freeze about this question of what happens, after Biden steps down. Because let's also point out, he would have to step down. You cannot take the nomination from, so this would have to be, and I don't think any party should. I mean, he's earned those delegates and they're his to release or keep. But Kamala Harris is a structural lock on this process. Yeah. And I suspected that this would be the case when he chose her in 2020, because look, I don't care that people are going to yell at me. You don't like her. I just don't think she's good at this. You can ask her what time it is and you can see her. She is so political that you can see her workshopping the question in her head. Madam Vice President, what time is it? This administration cares about watches, Tim. And we've always thought about timepieces as an important part of the American experience because, and you just say, just stop, With all that said, if you could show me that she does better, again, I'm all about the electability. Just show me who gets the 271. I don't think it's her at this point, or maybe it is, but it's a structural block where Biden said 2 years ago, because certainly 2 years ago, you could not make the case that she could pull it off. So Biden says, well, I guess I just have to run. Trump's running again. Nobody in Biden world really has that much faith in her. And so this moment we're dealing with now became inevitable. So I'm leaning toward, yes, you know what? This is baked in. We're all strapped in. This is a discussion probably should have been having a year ago, but I still maintain that if we're going to talk about the Democratic nominee and air this freak out, do it now. Get the issues out there. And the campaign, as you pointed out, should say to people, we get it. We get that. We're going to fix some of this stuff. We can't fix it all because Joe Biden's going to be Biden and let Reagan be Reagan. But that do it now in July, because if this happens again and you have to do it again in September or October,
it's over.
Then it's over.
It's over.
Right.
That's one of my lead cases against Biden. It's like this area is like, why don't you think he won't have something like this happen in October? And if so, then it's curtains.
It's going to happen again.
To your point about
just accept it.
To your point about how we should have been having this conversation a year ago, I do think it merits mentioning that because I was more torn on this question, frankly. And so, my colleagues, Bill Kristol and Charlie Sykes, actually were having this conversation a year ago and got a lot of negative feedback from people about it. So,
including me.
Yeah, so I think they deserve at least a note of acknowledgement on that front. I want to move to the Kamala question, but actually, just to be fair, I would like to play Mika Brzezinski gave a pretty full-throated argument on the side of staying the course with Biden this morning on Morning Joe. And so I'd like to listen to that, and we can respond to that and then talk about the Kamala question.
I've learned that counting him out is always a mistake. And doing that now could be catastrophic for our country. Do there need to be changes? Yes. Managing him. Management. To his schedule. Changes maybe even to those around him. I'll also say America needs an explanation from Joe Biden and reassurance that the other night was a one-time event and not part of a larger problem.
Goes on. I'll put a longer version in the show notes. She does about 8 minutes of all Joe Biden's comebacks. It was a little Pravda for me, but maybe that's right. I don't know. Joe Biden's been knocked down and he gets back up. What do you say to that?
I was nodding along with the, okay, now you have to step forward and show that this isn't going to happen.
Yeah,
well,
right.
I think it's going to happen again, and that should be priced in. But I think, a live event, talking to an actual reporter, and just let the stumbles come. Let it just say, look, he's 81. That's how he sounds now. Maybe firing some people. Again, I think that that the debate was a real flashing red siren, that there are people around Joe Biden who shouldn't be around Joe Biden. Just lance the boil, get it done. But this kind of hunkering down, I think, isn't gonna serve them well as a political campaign. But the thing about Joe's comebacks, yeah, I mean, the guy's been trying for 35 years to be president, and he made it. And I think he's persevered. I mean, you look at the primary, right, where it was like, well, Joe Biden's dead. Yeah. Three primaries in, and then, rolls to victory. I think he has a lot more support among the normals than a lot of people realize. And I think that's obscured by kind of the really screechy activist types who both love him and hate him.
I will say, I think that it was true at one point, but I think it's an open question about whether it still is. For anybody who follows me on social media knows I'm obsessed with this. My husband, I literally can't talk about anything else but this. I'm like consumed by this. What's happening right now?
Lucky him.
I know, lucky him. And so literally I've been asking strangers. We went to a little music festival. We went to the dinner. We were at a kid's birthday party, and I'm just going up to strangers, just straight. This isn't a real focus group, but just making sure I'm not losing my mind. I'm like, so what did you think about Biden on Thursday? And everybody, every race, every income scale, everyone you respond to is like, they were horrified, right? Like I think that they like Joe Biden. Again, I'm not asking MAGA people, but they like Joe Biden, but they're horrified. So it's different
outlier
than 4 years ago. Give me the outlier. I'd love to hear an outlier.
Yeah, I'll just and also I have to say my sympathies to your husband, because my wife, I come downstairs and I plop down on the couch and I pick up the remote, and she's like watching The Bear, or she's watching, she's binging The Good Wife or something. I'm like, listen, I got to turn the news on. And her head just kind of falls, and she's like, I get it. I know it's your job, but and then she's like, I'm going to go watch TV upstairs. Yeah. So, it's stressing everyone's relationships, Tim.
Is The Bear back out? And I need that. I might watch The Bear tonight.
I've never seen it. She loves it. She adores it.
It's a good show. I need a break mentally. All right. The case against Joe Biden.
Go ahead. Well, no, the one outlier, I had coffee with a friend the other day, retired military guy. And he's like, he hates Trump. And he thinks, he's not a fan of Joe Biden, right? But he's one of these dragging himself out, I guess, but because he would never, he's as close to a kind of a never Trumper friend as I have. I saw a text from him, during the debate, and I thought, he's just calling me up to say, see, I told you. And he said, and he went, okay. He said, but the answers more or less make sense. And a lot of the stuff he's saying is, clear enough. And I mean, he just sort of said, okay, not bad, but not horrible. And kind of just, again, he kind of priced in Biden's age. I was really shocked. I'm like, because I'm the one saying to him, no, this is a disaster. This is the Hindenburg. Oh, the humanity right in front of us, And he's like, okay. He's like, but Trump's nuts, and this isn't really changing my mind about anything, and I'm going to vote for Trump. I thought, okay, that is a really interesting outlier of somebody who does not like Joe Biden, but doesn't like Trump, but it finds Trump unacceptable. And I just thought it was an interesting.
I'm open to outliers. I didn't find any in my spur of the moment focus groups on the streets in New Orleans, but
okay, but my wife would not let me do. My wife would not let me do what you're doing. No. If I turned to somebody in a restaurant and I said, hey, by the way.
Literally. Ask Tyler. He did not let me do it either. He was just like, will you shut up? And I was like, I can't think about anything else. Anyway, the case against Joe Biden, I just want to get back to the Kamala thing one more time before we go. Here's back to Lakeisha Jane here, or Lakshaya Jane, excuse me. Poll after poll suggests Biden's biggest weakness is among core Democratic constituencies. I've been saying this. It's not never Trumpers this time. It's not the suburban college-educated vote. It's young and non-white voters. He goes on. Nobody credible can say that Trump is likely to win black or young voters outright, but it's exceedingly clear that Biden is struggling to recreate these parts of his 2020 coalition. is it not possible that Kamala Harris, his most likely replacement, and really the only real replacement that could, we'll have a longer discussion about this tomorrow on tomorrow's podcast, but process-wise, in theory, you could get somebody else, but Kamala is much cleaner than anything else for a variety of reasons. So that most likely replacement, wouldn't she have some upside with those voters?
Yes,
the Data for Progress poll found Harris's net favorable rating to be better than Biden's. Maybe she wouldn't have some of the Gaza baggage. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a legitimate argument.
I think well, I have two reactions to that. One is, yes, it could be, except that she is just so bad at politics that's all a notional advantage until she gets up and starts talking.
Though, I mean, she was much better. And I reject your outlier friend's notion that the substance of Biden's comments were good. I encourage people to read the transcript if they agree with that. But she was much better than him. And again, it wasn't the debate, let's pressure, et cetera. But there was kind of some pressure as the VP after just the disastrous debate. She's got to go out and do the TV rounds. And she was pretty good. It wasn't Barack Obama, it wasn't Ronald Reagan, but it was fine.
I don't, and I also accept that that's why that's why I called him an outlier, because that is really an outlier. But it happened. It's a real thing that happened. I agree. I saw her afterwards and I said, okay, this is a better Kamala Harris. But she is, I didn't like her. I still carry a lot of baggage from that first debate. Don't like the way she did that. And I think, again, she's I just don't think she's good on the stump. I don't think she's good at retail politics. With all that said, maybe she is the strongest one. But I want to go to the second thing. This is where I'll talk to you in former Republican mode, right? And we used to count on this as let me just say to the Democratic base, Republicans count on you to be purity testing weak sisters who will defect at the drop of a hat. It just strikes. I mean, they're not even a base.
Yeah.
They're kind of a base. They're sort of presumptive voters. And it amazes me how willing Democrats are. I still think this as an independent, but it amazed me. And it was something we counted on as Republicans, right? That they always, eat their young and create the circular firing squads. I find it astonishing that there are young people whose futures are on the line who think that Gaza is worth risking, that Joe Biden, because Joe Biden isn't the president of Israel and couldn't run the Israeli war in Gaza, that therefore it is worth instituting an autocracy in America that will take away their rights for the next 40 years of their lives.
Yeah. Well,
and
I think that's bad. I saw a TikTok
influencer,
influencer, James Charles, had like 3 million views for a TikTok about how it's Joe Biden's fault that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And so that's enough to make you want to just jump off a ceiling, jump off a roof. Well, I guess you can't jump off a ceiling, jump off a roof.
Hit the roof, jump off the ceiling. It's late in the interview. We're getting bad metaphor fails. But that, or the story about black farmers who blame Biden because Republicans somehow did you see the story in the Times? It was like, saying Biden hasn't helped us. Maybe we should think about Trump. Well, he hasn't helped them because the 2 times Biden tried to do relief, an advocacy group involved with Stephen Miller basically took them to court and jammed the thing up. Yeah. And it's like the people who say, well, Joe Biden was president, as you just pointed out. Joe Biden was president when Roe v. Wade was overturned. It must have been his fault. And I think I don't know what you do with that. And I don't know what you do with a base that is so micro-targeted on particular issues that they say, if I don't get my thing, whether it's Gaza or student loans or green policy or whatever it is, that therefore I'm going to defect by just not showing up. And if a fascist shows up and takes power, well, that'll teach you, because there's always that element under it, right? It's like, well, we'll teach you a lesson. We'll let an authoritarian take power. It's like, dude, you're not going to teach me a lesson.
Yeah, no, or me. It's all flabbergasting. Quickly, two other things. One more on this, then we'll get to the dessert that I promised. I don't think people. I may maybe have to do a little mea culpa on the Robert Hur thing, and I think this has been lost in the conversation. Like putting my old Republican Oppo hat on. One of the big things happening over in MAGA circles that you might not know if you're not paying attention to Fox News is they have been agitating for Merrick Garland to release the tapes of Joe Biden's interviews with Robert Hur. And to me, that seemed like a stupid stunt. It still is kind of a stupid stunt, but this is what's coming, by the way, by Joe Biden. Like there are when people do the one bad night thing, like there are all these other ancillary things that I think the shock of Thursday has prevented people from thinking through logically. The Robert Hur tapes issue becomes very real, I think. And if they are released, my guess is that they sound a lot like what Thursday night sounded like.
Yeah. I'll say this about, I sound like Nixon here, right? Let me say this about, but I'll say this about the Robert Hur report. It wasn't his job to reach those conclusions. So, that's true. That the problem, even if there were, I mean, fine. Hur wants to talk to reporters and say, the president, I thought the president was out of it. Well, it's unprofessional, but it's, I'm a little tired, especially after we were all gaslit by the Barr Bowdlerizing of the Mueller report, that for these prosecutors to say, well, let me just do one other thing that isn't really my job here. Right. So
I agree with that.
You were not hired to evaluate Joe Biden's mental competence. But yeah, I think your overall point, Tim, is this. The Thursday debate broke the dam about this, where now it's fair game to talk about this, because up until then, you didn't. You could just say, well, he's an old guy, he's going to have these moments. Thursday, I think, made it so that there might be people outside of Fox News who say, yeah, I'd like to hear those too.
All right. Lastly, we'll get back to the dessert, the death of expertise. I needed to do this when I had Tom Nichols on here in Louisiana. There's been a lot of discussion about the 10 Commandments going on the walls of schools. And I've got thoughts on that, but I think it feels a little less important than some of these other bills that were passed under the radar regarding vaccines. Are you ready for this? Buckle up, Tom. Just in this session in Louisiana, these are laws that have passed and been signed by Governor Jeff Landry, restricts the state from enforcing any rules put out by the World Health Organization, funds a study on unexpected deaths of under 2-year-olds and whether vaccines are to blame, investigates the origins of autism, prohibits vaccine requirements in schools. There are a few other ones. Vaccine exemption requests at schools have gone up like 100% in the last 2 years in Louisiana schools. So it's the Republican crazy continues apace while we deal with the Joe Biden crisis.
As they say in a famous movie, why you do this to me, Jimmy? And by the way, I meant to, when you were talking about Plan Bs earlier, as I said over the weekend, a movie everybody should see, Streets of Fire, where we're at with Biden now is when the police chief says, well, my plan went to shit. What have you got? But with the Louisiana thing, what's so interesting about it is, I mean, these are the people that used to call me when I worked in politics and say, is your boss part of the Trilateral Commission?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
Have you met with the Bilderbergs?
The Bilderbergers. Oh my God, yeah.
But unfortunately, those people are now running Louisiana, so that's kind of a problem.
Louisiana, and all this legislation is. It's not just ignorance and paranoia. I mean, there's also a huge element of narcissism in it, right? I'm always going off about narcissism because it's like, only we know, we've figured it out here in Baton Rouge that, the billions of people taking vaccines are all sheeple. But there is this huge kind of, it's almost like it's performative jerkitude. It's like, here, we're going to pass this bill and maybe kill some of our children because we're so desperate to be in the national news saying fuck you to everybody.
Saying fuck you, Anthony Fauci. We'll show you, Anthony Fauci. Anybody. We're bringing measles, mumps, and rubella back to Shreveport.
Right. I mean, The whooping cough is the roar of freedom now. I mean, and for what? Because there's something going on, I won't go too deep into this as we're heading out, but there is this kind of problem of unrequited hate that is making these demonstrative, performative things happen. Remember the scene in Mad Men where the guy gets on the elevator with Don Draper and he says, he's just been fired and Draper's ruined his life. He says, Don, I feel sorry for you. And Draper's looking up at the elevator and he says, I don't think about you at all. And I think there are a lot of people who say, okay, well, I'll make you think about me by giving my kids rubella. There is this desperate pay attention to me thing going on. And it's like, this isn't about what people in San Francisco or Washington or New York think about you. This is about protecting your children from childhood scourges. And yet you're so mad about this. You're so wrapped up in, the Fox and OAN and talk radio world that you actually think passing a bill to hurt your own kids is going to make Don Draper say, okay, now I see you now, now you've hurt me now. And it is a really weird dynamic that has all of this kind of insecurity in it. They remind me of Russians in a way. I told Russians years ago before things got really bad, they were like, why, you in the West? I said, listen, we in the West would be happy never to pay attention to you again as long as you leave other people alone.
Yeah.
Just don't invade your neighbors. No one's trying to take away your nukes. We want to do business with you. We want to build hotels here. We want to visit your, I have a great love for Russia. My daughter's a Russian, but I'm like, but we don't want to have constant arguments with you. Just leave your fucking neighbors alone and we won't think about you at all. And I think that was the wrong thing to say because you can almost see them going, no, we want you to think about us. We want you to think about us every day. We want to matter to you. And I'm like, why can't you just not matter? Why can't you just leave people alone? And I think it's exactly the same dynamic. We will pass crazy bills because, experts and bureaucrats and other people, we're going to hurt our own children if that's what it takes to show that we are, flying the Gadsden flag of crazy down. And I think that's just, I don't understand how anybody would do that to their own kids. Yeah.
I 100% agree with that, and there is no equivalency here, but I think that there's a lesson also from some on the left, some I've been hearing from over the past few weeks. It's like this whole question that we're discussing right now about Joe Biden is also not about sticking it to the media people that have been mean to him or sticking it to the MAGA or whatever. Like this is the goal we have right now is defeating Trump. We need to be clear-eyed about it and not petulant. Right. And by the way, that's going to be me.
It's not personal.
It's not personal. It's not about personal. Me. It's not about Joe Biden. It's not about Jill Biden. It's about protecting the democracy, figuring out the best way to do it. Sometimes you got to eat a little shit. I've eaten plenty of shit over the years. And anyway, I hope
show up. Yeah. That's no matter how this all turns out. Fine. Everybody, Joe's staying in, Joe's getting out, whatever it is. In the end, as long as you're in the big coalition that says Donald Trump can't be president, fine, we'll work it out.
Show up, focus on that, and don't impugn the motives of others that are trying to figure out the way to do it as well. Okay, that has been a good show. I've got an update for tomorrow, a little tease for tomorrow's show. I have a text from Benjamin Wittes following the Supreme Court ruling. This is a fucking disaster. So should be an uplifting show tomorrow.
Let's see let's try and parse that for a moment, shall we, Tim?
Should be an uplifting show tomorrow. Tune back in for that. We'll talk a little bit more about the practical elements of what what moving on from Joe Biden could look like if that route went. Whether there'd be chaos, whether it would be workable, the Kamala of it all. Should be a very entertaining show. We'll see y'all then. Tom Nichols, thanks for standing in for Bill Kristol today. I appreciate you very much.
Thanks, Tim.
We'll be back tomorrow. See y'all then. Peace.